live from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Hello there, a very good evening and a warm welcome to National News Broadcast. I'm Vidushni Sadish Kumar together with Clifford Richards. Wholesale price of several essential goods reduced. The private bus strike ends. The president points out that the old economic model cannot be used now. Further discussions take place to form an all-party government. The Attorney General assures the court that illegal constructions at the struggle premises will not be removed until the 10th. The Justice Minister says certain political parties tried to achieve narrow political aims through the struggle. China sanctions the US Speaker and her family members. In your local stories this evening, President Ranil Wickremesinghe points out that the old economic model cannot be used now.
Well, this was during an expert dialogue in Colombo today. The president emphasized the need to stabilize the economy by paying attention to global changes and thinking anew. Launching of research report on Sri Lanka's economic reforms and the expert dialogue took place at the BMICH in Colombo today. Under the theme, Let's Reset Sri Lanka. Well, this has been organized by Advocata Institute. Delivering the keynote address at the summit, President Ranil Wickremesinghe pointed out that the economic stability should be created first, and that should be followed by social stability.
This crisis that we face today is a crisis which I look back in history and I found that I did not see such a crisis during the British time or the Dutch time or the Portuguese time. And the Portuguese period was one of warfare. The only similar situation that I could come to was the collapse of the Rajarata economy, which led to the drift of civilization back here into the southwest. Well, the way out is through the agreements that we have with the IMF, the staff level agreements, first and foremost. I don't think there's any other way out. People talk of alternative measures, but that has not worked. Whether we like it or not, we have to deal with the IMF. Now, this is an issue which the whole parliament has to consider. If any member of parliament or any party says we are not for it, then we have the right to ask, what is your solution? What is your alternative? Because all parties must abide by this agreement. When we are negotiating the IMF, one of the biggest issues that we have to face is government changes and the policies change. So the first issue is not the substance, but are we prepared to stand by to support this agreement? If you are not prepared, then the parliament must take the consequence. That is very clear. We can't say we are for half and not for the other half. You have to take the whole thing in full. So this is a matter which not only members of parliament, but people outside parliament must also bring their influence to bear on those who have to take decisions inside parliament. It may be bitter, but any medicine for recovery is bitter. You have to take injections. So we know the path we have to take. First, we have the staff level agreement. Secondly, and more important, is the sustainable debt. How are we to handle the sustainable debt? First, the foreign debt. And when you look at the official debt, are we getting caught into the geopolitics of the region of Asia? That's the first issue. So until you settle the, come to an agreement among the official creditors, it is not possible to go to the London Club. Second, and the more important issue is, have we got to look at the local debt? Now that has far-reaching consequences. The Lazads, the financial advisors are looking at both debts. It's certainly going to be a difficult time. I won't say no. The first 6 months will be difficult. It will be a period which we have not seen before, but we all have to go through it. If anyone has a formula, proposals that will make it easier, certainly, I think we should hear it, and the Parliament could then decide between these two sets of proposals. Otherwise, we have no other way except to bite the bullet. So how do we prepare ourselves? And in doing so, before we get on to the recovery, is the very important issue of the social, economic dimensions of the crisis. We have over 6 million people who are being malnourished. More and more are being unemployed. How long will it last? And how are we going to support them? We are setting aside some additional money from the government, but you will find demands in companies that are doing well for some form of allowance or a salary increase. But to implement these reforms, to implement the restructuring, you need stability. So we have to look at the social and the economic dimensions of the reforms, the restructuring that we are going to implement. We have already seen the economic impact of the shortage of fuel and inflation in this country, impact which came on to the political scene and the social scene. It's only now that we are restoring or we are getting back to a stable system of government. We cannot have a second incident. I don't know whether we can stand that strain. So while looking at the economics of it, look at the social side of it. Look at the well-being of a large number of people who will be affected by this crisis. We cannot look at it merely in terms of figures. We have to look at it in terms of persons involved. So this is, to me, the most important part of the restructuring. How are the people affected? How are you going to cushion it? Even with the IMF, there's agreement that the vulnerable groups have to be looked after. But we have to find the resources. It's easier said than done. You've got to target them. And that is a task which I would like the whole of the community to be involved.
Wholesale traders in PETA says that wholesale price of several essential goods has reduced. They said the customers do not get the concession due to middlemen. Traders said that wholesale prices of dal, big onions, potatoes, sugar, red onions and garlic have reduced. The strike launched by private buses last night based on several demands has ended. The National Transport Commission has taken steps to reduce bus fare by 11.4% from midnight yesterday. Accordingly, the minimum bus fare has been reduced up to 34 rupees. People in many areas were greatly inconvenienced since private buses launched a strike without informing anyone. Buses belonging to Sri Lanka Transport Board were operated as usual. Minister Bandula Gunawardena has expressed his views about the revision of bus fares while inspecting a development project implemented by the Road Development Authority at Yatiyantota area. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said the bus fare is not decided by politicians but by the Transport Commission. The bus fare is decided according to their criteria. The bus fare was increased by 20% during the COVID period, limiting the passengers only to number of seats. There are standing passengers in the buses now. Accordingly, the high price should be reduced now. The Transport Commission has done it and only sought the approval. Five 5,453,376 vehicles have been registered for National Fuel Pass by 9 p.m. yesterday. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said that distribution of fuel according to the National Fuel Pass took place successfully for the fifth day at filling stations island-wide today. There was a reduction of long queues near filling stations. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara in a Twitter message has mentioned about the reasons for the losses at the Petroleum Corporation. He has mentioned selling products at subsidized rates for years, rupee depreciation, dues from Sri Lankan Airlines amounting to USD 300 million, Ceylon Electricity Board 60 billion rupees, high premiums, demurrage and bank interest due to the financial situation, overstaffed, inefficient and overpaid staff, 25% salary increment on a collective agreement since 2012, not operating refinery and depending more on imported refined products, and high distribution costs are the reasons. Litrogas company said that 2.2 million gas cylinders were issued within 20 days to the market. They said they are continuing with their services. Meanwhile, chairman of the company said that their gas price will be revised next week. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that the aim of an all-party government is to build the country by converting parliament into a government.
In fact, the president was mentioning this during a discussion with a group including the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and parliamentarians Professor G.L. Perez and Dallas Alaperma yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat. The first meeting took place with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. The president said that the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution has been submitted to Parliament and it is suitable to arrive at a common agreement following discussions, and he expected everyone's support. The interim budget is scheduled to be presented in Parliament in the first week of September. President Wickremesinghe said it is expected to provide relief to the people. The president said that steps will be taken to establish parliamentary oversight committees soon as plans have been made to provide officers to its chairman. The country needs an efficient public service. The president said he is prepared to call those oversight committee chairmen to cabinet meetings as well. Mr. Maithripala Sirisena thanked for the respect shown by the president to the proposal made by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party for an all-party government, and he said his party would give its full support for an all-party government. General Secretary of the SLFP, Dayasiri Jayasekara, said an all-party government should be established according to an accepted method. National organizer of the SLFP, Duminda Disanayake, pointed out that the change demanded by the people has already occurred and it is the responsibility of everyone to take steps to get the country on the correct path without letting good opportunities that were missed following the tsunami and the war victory. The program of 11 proposals presented by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party for an all-party government was presented to the president. During the discussion with the groups, Professor G.L. Perez and Dallas Alaperma, the president said everyone should join for an economic plan suitable for 10 years. He pointed out that the economic collapse and hunger led to the commencement of the struggle, but it ended in violence. He said that there should not have been an opportunity to discuss democracy today if the parliament was not protected from the violent elements. Professor G.L. Perez said that there are positive hopes that an all-party government and it should never be changed. MP Dallas Alaperma said that everyone should be prepared to discuss about an all-party government. A group of people, including Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, attended the discussion.
A meeting between the President and Samagi Jana Balawegaya took place this afternoon on establishing an all-party government. The meeting took place at the Presidential Secretariat.
A group of parliamentarians, including opposition leaders Samagi Balawegaya, leader Sajith Premadasa, attended the meeting. President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that approving the 22nd Amendment is important. All parties have spoken about it. The people believe that the amendment could be approved. I expected to get the 22nd Amendment approved after the approval of the budget in August. The oversight committee system has to be implemented with the presentation of the 22nd Amendment. Mr. Karu Jayasuriya has given a report from the Movement for Free and Just Society. Sri Lanka Freedom Party has proposed a national council of party leaders. We have to come to an agreement on national policies.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයෙන් යෝජනා කරා විශේෂයෙන්ම ජාතික සභාව පක්ෂ නායකයින්ගේ. ඉතින් ඒ ජාතික සභාවත් පිළි අරගෙන තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ යෝජනා ඉදිරිපත් කරලා ඒවා ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න මම හිතන්නේ අපි අතර කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. ඊළඟට අපිට තියෙන්නේ ජාතික සභාවෙන් නිසා විශේෂයෙන්ම පොදු අවමතා වැඩසටහනක් එකඟ වෙන්නටත් ඒ වගේම ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්ති පිළිබඳත් එකඟත්වයකට පැමිණීම දීර්ඝ කාලීනව. ඉතින් මේ කාරණා දෙක තමයි අපි බලන්නේ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න. ඒ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන ගමන් ඒ වගේම ආරාධනා කරන්න කැමති විශේෂයෙන්ම සර්වපාක්ෂික ආණ්ඩුවට ඇති කරන්න. සර්වපාක්ෂික ආණ්ඩුව ඇති කරන්නට පක්ෂ එකතු වෙලා ආණ්ඩුව එක්ක වැඩ කරන්න කොහොමද වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න කියලා අපිට තීරණය කරන්න වෙයි.
ඔබතුමාගේ මේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති ප්‍රකාශනය අපි
Dr. Rajitha Senaratne said that there is no difference between the President's policy statement and their policies. He said that he is happy to note that the power of the President to make such a statement from his position. He said it may not have such a value if it was made from the other side. But it has more value now, he says.
ඔබතුමා ඉන්න තැන ඉඳගෙන මෙවැනි ප්‍රකාශයක් කිරීමට තිබුණු ආත්ම ශක්තිය.
Well, the Attorney General assured the appeals court today that they will refrain from removing illegal constructions at the Gulf's struggle premises until the 10th without following proper legal procedures.
Well, appearing on behalf of the Attorney General, Additional Solicitor General Sumati Dharmavardhana informed the court that necessary instructions will be given to the IGP soon. Colombo Fort Police has informed to remove illegal constructions and crop cultivations at the place before 5 p.m. today. The assurance was given when 4 writ petitions filed seeking to nullify that statement were taken up today. The court said that there is no obstacle for the respondents to follow preliminary legal steps to remove illegal constructions during that time period. The court also said it is not an obstacle for the persons to leave the area voluntarily. Today is the 119th day of the Gulf phase struggle. Removing of tents and temporary shelters was seen today according to the court order given by Fort Police earlier. St. John's ambulance team, which voluntarily stayed at the place, left the place yesterday. Police announced over loudspeakers to stop denying the rights of the public. Fort Magistrate Court ordered today to bail out Venerable Koswate Mahanama Thera, who was remanded for violating court orders. Announcing the bail order, the magistrate ordered to release the Thera on a surety bail of 500,000 rupees. Fort Magistrate rejected today a request made by police to name 10 individuals, including Hirunika Premachandra, as suspects of a violent incident near President's house in Fort. Police had taken steps to bail out the group who were arrested for the unrest on that day itself. Minister Vijaydas Rajapaksa says that certain political parties try to achieve their narrow political aims through the struggle.
Well, he says that violence should not be used in a struggle. Taking part in a special program last night over the national television, he said that a struggle should achieve good aims. Minister Vijaydas Rajapaksa said that the protesters won before the president left. They continued without being satisfied with that. They won that as well. Thereafter, the president has to be selected by parliament. One group went outside the constitutional system. That is where the black patch was marked on the struggle. Opportunistic politicians have come forward to use the struggle for their ulterior motives. The government is implementing the law. A crime committed by a government or protesters is wrong. The law should be applied to both parties. Everything is done according to the law. We have a duty to prevent any hardship to the people who honestly joined the struggle and rejected the violence. The 22nd Amendment has characteristics which go beyond the 19th Amendment. There is a constitutional council. The government party can select their representatives. Opposition parties and small parties have been given the opportunity and the right to select their representatives. The approval of the Constitutional Council has to be obtained to appoint a governor and central bank. Approval of the Constitutional Council has to be obtained to appoint other members except the official members of the Monetary Board. According to the 19th Amendment, the then President held Defence, Environment and Mahavali ministerial portfolios, but after that, Parliament, the President cannot hold any ministry. There is a legal issue in that. The answer for that has been given by the Supreme Court judge bench about the 21st Amendment. Well, the Mahanayak of the Sri Lanka Amarapura Mahanikaya, Agga Mahapandita, the most venerable Dodampahala Chandrasiri Thera says that a strong government is necessary to provide solutions to the problems in the country, and an all-party governance is important in that regard.
Well, he mentioned this when he met President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday. The president visited Rajagiriya Kalapaluwava Gautama Tapovanna temple yesterday and engaged in religious practices. Thereafter, he called over on the Mahanayaka and received his blessings. The Mahanayaka Thera said that everyone should join to establish an all-party government on behalf of the country. A program is needed to make the country self-sufficient by giving priority for agriculture. A national policy should be prepared to give employment based on merits. He said that the education system should be updated according to the global standards. Most Venerable Dodampahala Chandrasiri Thera said that there were discussions about a judicial act for the Sangha. The Buddhist monks created a dialogue on that. Therefore, he requested the president to pay attention to draft laws to establish such a code. President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that the opportunity to establish a code for the Sangha was created when former President J.R. Jayawardena was compiling 1977 Constitution. However, it has not been possible to establish such codes so far. It is expected there will be an agreement before long on the matter.
Well, with the adverse weather conditions during the past couple of days, good news is that the Met Department says that a reduction of rains is expected after the 10th. But of course, 5 persons have died due to the prevailing inclement weather. Director Information of the Disaster Management Center, Sugat Disanayaka, says that the disaster situation has affected 65 divisional secretariat areas in 10 districts. 13,739 persons belonging to 3,471 families being affected. 574 individuals are staying safe at safe places. In fact, 5 persons have died due to inclement weather. The building research organizations have requested people in Hambantota, Kegol, Mathura, Nuwara and Ratnapura districts to be vigilant, where red alerts have been issued. Director General of Building Research Organization Asiri Karunawardena says that rainfall of 450 to 500 millimeters has been received. People in the risk areas should act according to the prior warnings given about landslides. If there is a red alert, they should vacate the area. If there are prior signs of landslides, people in the area should immediately vacate the place. Thereafter, they should inform research officials through the Divisional Secretariat or Gram Nildari. Disaster Management Center can be informed through the hotline 117, which is in operation all 24 hours of the day.
Well, the president has decided to provide security and infrastructure facilities for the pilgrims who walk from the north and east for Katharagama Essala festival. The president's media division said more than 20 million rupees had been allocated in this regard. This is the first occasion where a decision has been taken to provide a relief with the intervention of the president for the pilgrims who arrive in Katharagama by foot. Munragala District Secretary informed the president about the problems faced by those people. The president's media division said that steps were taken to provide necessary facilities after paying attention to the matter. Nearly 30,000 have arrived in Katharagama walking over a distance of 90 kilometers from Okanda. The pilgrims face various hardships during the pilgrimage conducted according to the historic traditions. The new program aims to minimize those difficulties.
Well, the batik industry is a very lucrative one, but it has become difficult for producers of batik to get the material needed by their industry. Well, many batik production organizations were seen at villages in the Puttalam district some years ago. However, many factories were closed down as they did not get solutions for their problems. Another reason was importing printed textiles as substitutes. There has been a revival of the batik industry during the past few years. The price of raw material is increasing daily. There is a high demand for high batik products from foreign countries such as the US, Japan and Germany. But batik industrialists have not been able to supply according to the demand. Well, that's news at home. We take a short break and we'll be back with international stories shortly.
யுத்தெல்லாம் ஒன்றிணைத்து நாளைய தினத்திற்கு அடித்தளம் அமைக்கும் மக்கள் வங்கியின் எஸ் டிஜிட்டல் சேமிப்பு கணக்கு சேலஞ்சிற்கு எஸ்.
மக்கள் வங்கியின் பீப்பிள்ஸ் ரெமிட்டன்ஸ் கோடி அதிர்ஷ்டம் அனுப்புங்கள் வெல்லுங்கள் சீட்டிலிப்பின் ஏப்ரல் மாத வெற்றியாளரான நாகலட்சுமியிடம் ரூபாய் 1 மில்லியனுக்கான காசோலை குவைத் தூதுவர் யுஎல் முகமது ஜவுவர் மற்றும் சிரேஷ்ட அதிகாரி போஷித பெரேரா அவர்களால் குவைத்தில் வழங்கி வைக்கப்பட்டது.
Well, on your sports story, starting things off with China. Beijing has decided to sanction Nancy Pelosi and her immediate family over her trip to Taiwan this week.
Well, topping the world news these days, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman announced today that the US House Speaker's trip to Taiwan was an egregious provocation, and because of this, China decides to add up sanctions on Pelosi and her immediate family members in accordance with the relevant laws of the country. Well, Pelosi traveled to the self-governed island in disregard of China's grave concerns and firm opposition, the statement read. Her visit gravely undermines China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, seriously trampling on the One China principle and severely threatening the peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, it added. China has decided to cut diplomatic ties with the US in a number of military and civilian areas, and Foreign Ministry announced on Friday the development of ties is Beijing's way of retaliating for this week's visit to Taiwan by Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi. The ministry released a list of areas in which there will be no longer communication between Chinese and American officials. It includes military contacts on level of theater commander and wider defense policy administration talks. Also suspended are consultations on maritime security, cooperation on repatriation of illegal immigrants, and also legal assistance on criminal matters and many more areas.
Prima Kotomi Pantan.
Welcome back, and on to your sports news this evening. Saranga Silva of Sri Lanka was qualified today for the final of the women's long jump event of Commonwealth Games 2022.
She recorded 6.42 meters in the heats. Only 5 sportswomen were able to record the necessary 6.75 meters which needed to qualify for the final round. 12 sportswomen should be included in the final round. Accordingly, Saranga Silva qualified for the final round as she was among the 12 in the heats.
Prima Kotomi Pantan.
Well, thank you for watching us and have a good night.